Are we going for a walk? Yeah. I'd share what I have going on in my little kitchen this morning. I did up the breakfast dishes. I have some chicken bones that I took out of the freezer and put those into my Instant Pot to make broth. I have a whole bag of, it's hard to even tell what it is by looking at it, but I have a whole bag of chicken, chopped up chicken that was left over from New Year's Eve dinner. That was supposed to be our Christmas dinner, but I had chopped up a couple chickens, and that was what the meat I didn't use. I have a little bit of broth left, and with that, tonight's dinner is going to be chicken soup. I doubt that I'm going to use all of this, so I'll probably have enough to do something else with it as well. And I'm making a pot of green tea. I'm extremely grateful for my little tiny kitchen. I don't know, I keep getting a lot of new people, so I always like to kind of go over things, but if you've been here for a while, you already all know this, but back in 2020, my daughter, her husband, and their 6 children moved in with us. And to make the most positive experience for all of us, we created my husband did all the work, so he created our own little area to live in, and designed and put in this little kitchen real quickly, and I turned over my big kitchen to my daughter. And so I do all my cooking and all my videos here mostly in this little kitchen. Occasionally I will do a video if I'm in my daughter's, the main kitchen. And anytime I need to do anything with a bigger stove or something that I can't do here, I can just go up and do it in the big kitchen, and she's perfectly fine with that. So we have a nice working relationship. I don't know how much longer it'll last. I know that they're eventually would like to get their own place, and that's fine. In the meantime, the little inconveniences of life, like having a tiny little kitchen to work in or any other things, is completely overshadowed by the blessing of having my grandchildren around me. I absolutely love that. I love the time I get to spend with my daughter, just being part of their family, and but yet we can separate and do our own things too at the same time. So it's actually turned out to be an ideal situation. So I'm just taking the blessing as long as it does last. December seemed like such a challenging month for me. We had so many things going on besides getting ready for the holidays, and I felt like I was just kind of all over the place. I had family things that I needed to take care of, which took us out of town for a couple trips. We had a big snowstorm that was totally unexpected, and ended up being super cold, and things froze. Our water pipes froze for a while. They eventually got defrosted, and that was good. And we're back to normal now, and it just seemed like there was one thing after another, and then of course trying to make sure I got all of the necessary to-dos. That big snowstorm and ice storm that came ended up canceling our Christmas, which we were able to get together on New Year's Eve, and so that was at least a nice part to end the whole month. My mother-in-law had a birthday. There was just a whole lot of things going on. I found it really, really hard to get any filming and editing done. I felt like it was just There was just something on my list every single day. So I didn't have as many videos out in December. In December, I started even questioning, am I really up for doing 2 videos a week? I've been doing that since October of 2021, and I've had, a few bumps in the road of times we've been away or things that have happened, but I managed to keep up with that. So, I was getting ready at that point because I had so much going on to make an announcement and say, I'm just going to have a Friday video, and that's going to be all I'm going to be able to do right now. But right now that I'm on the other side of that, I'm into the new year, there's a lot more enthusiasm, life has settled down. So I'm going to continue on with my 2 videos a week as much as I am able. Occasionally, maybe there'll have to be a time where there's not, just kind of like it has been, unless I see a reason to cut back to 1 video a week. But anyway, that's just a little channel update. But so for right now, I'm still going to work hard to stick to my Tuesday and Friday schedule. But all that said, I think I only had 1 Homemaker's journal out in December, which usually I try to get at least 2 out in a month. And so this one was sitting in my file to do, and like I said, because of December, I just couldn't get to it. So here I am in the first week of January, and I'm working to get this one filmed and edited and share all kinds of good stuff with you. So you saw what I had going on back there and what we're doing for dinner. That's actually going to be part of a future video. I've planned January to be my month of utilizing all the bits and pieces that get left in my freezer, taking advantage of the things that I have in there. I continually, it seems like, see a great deal, will buy something, meat mostly, but other things occasionally, and it goes into the freezer and is forgotten, or I just don't use it as fast as I seem to be buying them. So in an effort to curb our grocery bill this month and bring down overall expenses, I have decided that I'm going to get into my freezer and start pulling out all the little bits and pieces of things. You know how, I don't know, am I the only one? I end up with, this much frozen vegetables in a bag, and they get set aside, and then I collect bones for making broth. Well, I got a lot of bones, so I thought, well, this was a good day to use some of them. I still have more. I have like 2 cups of rice that I don't want to go to waste, so I put those in a Ziploc bag and I put it into the freezer, and there it sits. So that's my goal for January, is to try to utilize all the bits and pieces, take advantage of the sales that I have bought in the past, things I bought in the past, and turn those into meals for my husband and I for this month. So I guess I could kind of call it my pantry challenge, or my pantry/freezer challenge. I figured it was a good project for January. Do any of you guys do a pantry or freezer challenge at any point during the year? Do you do any other types of challenges? So let me know in the comments below, because I think it's really helpful to not be wasteful. That's always been one of my big things, is to try to utilize all my resources and not waste anything. So I'm doing that. I'm also definitely always keeping tabs of all the bits and pieces that end up in my refrigerator. A little bit of fresh veggies left, a little, cup of this or a cup of that, and how to incorporate that into meals. Just be creative. I've done several, talked about it at least several times, creative use of leftovers. And sometimes for me, I just have to pull everything out, put it on the counter so that I can visually see it, and then say, okay, what can I do with this? The things that I do have in stock in plenty are things like rice and potatoes and pasta. So I have a lot of the starches. I have flour and baking powder and all those typical pantry items so that I can add to any of these meals. For now, my January grocery list is going to be made up of just fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, dairy, eggs, things like that. And if there's anything specific I need for a recipe that would allow me to use up a lot of other stuff and create something, then I will pick up that too. But that's what my goal is for January. I really love old-fashioned skills, things that our grandmothers did, our mothers did, things that benefited the family financially, extended resources, anything that will benefit us as a family is what I kind of focus when I look at those traditional old-fashioned skills. Things like learning to can, bake bread, have a garden, anything like that I think is a great skill. Well, a few years ago, I discovered something. I discovered wool socks and how amazing they are. I never wanted to spend the money on them. Could they be that great? Yes, trust me, they're that great. But I have one big problem, is that they eventually end up with holes. For me, they end up holes in the toes. And so I set them aside. Recently, I looked at the socks, and there was absolutely nothing wrong with the sock other than the hole in the toe. And I wanted to be able to extend the life. I don't want to go out and spend more money on more socks. And so I decided to do a little research and learn how to darn my socks. This is an old-fashioned skill. In today's society, we don't do things like that. We don't repair socks. We don't repair holes in clothing. Our society today throws it away and starts all over and goes out and buys more. And I think in these times of financial struggles and financial difficulties for people, bringing back some of these old-fashioned skills so that we can save money is actually a good idea. So after doing a few YouTubes and getting a hang of it, because unlike what you might think, darning a sock is not just sewing the hole closed. That's just sewing the hole closed, and now you have a little knot in there, and you've got misshapen socks. And I wanted to learn how to do it properly, so I did, and I'm not an expert. So what you're seeing is me taking my first attempt at darning a sock, and it really was a very enjoyable process. It's funny how these things that we don't want to do end up actually being not only a financial benefit, but they end up being an amazing, relaxing thing to just sit and do. I turned on my Bible and I listened to my Bible and a few devotionals, and I ended up doing both socks, but both of them had a hole in it. And since then, I have found it a very relaxing thing to do in the evenings. I will have my little basket with my thread and my scissors and sit down, put on a good podcast, and darn socks. So I have, I think, 2 more pairs, and I will have fixed the holes in all of my wool socks. And since I've already had them for at least 2 years, I'm going to be interested to see how well the darning holds up and how much more life I can get out of them. Such a beautiful morning this morning. It's gray, it's overcast, and I am at my in-laws' house. My mother-in-law just celebrated her 87th birthday yesterday, so we left the freezing cold and ice and made our way up here where there's no ice and no cold. Wind, lots of wind. There's been a whole lot of wind, but there isn't anything right now, and it's just really a pretty beautiful morning. So the last thing I want to share with you guys is a book review. Back in November, I think it was, I purchased a few books that had been on my list, my want-to-buy list, from thrift books. So I highly recommend thrift books if you don't use it. It's a great place to purchase books. Also, don't forget the library. They're free. Then you can actually look at the book and say, hey, this is worth buying, and then you can go to thrift books and get it at a really good discount. But the book that I am going to share with you is an old book. It's, well, I say that, but let me see, 1980. Okay, That doesn't seem that old. I graduated from high school in 1980, so to me that's not old, but you know, it's, for a book, it's been around a long time, just like me. But the book is called Living More with Less. And if you remember, I did a book review on I believe it was a Homemakers journal not long ago about the cookbook More with Less. And I told you how much I love this cookbook. It's got such great recipes. These are a collection of recipes from Mennonite ladies. And so I told you all about that, so I won't spend more time with that. But this book is kind of set up in the same way. It is from the Mennonite community, many different Mennonite communities. And throughout the book are tips on saving money. And if you're a fan of like the Tightwad Gazette or something like that, you might enjoy this because they're just little snippets of things that people do to save money. The first part of the book goes into a lot of the author's philosophy, which comes from her Mennonite background. So people, you may or may not agree with all of that, but by the time you get to about page 73, then it starts going into all of these tips. She has advice on saving money, how to save money on clothing, how to save money on things in your home, homemaking, ways to save money on celebration, on traveling, on cars, recreation, all kinds of various topics with a lot of helpful tips and ideas. So, if you find a good bargain on this book, grab it just because it's a fun read. Or like I said, go to the library and get it and see what you think. I'm glad to have it on my shelf because it's fun to read and it's fun to look at and just say, hey, what are some of her ideas? And glean some of those and start using some of those ideas in my own life to save money. All right, you guys, I think that wraps up Homemakers Journal 29. If you enjoyed this, please give me a thumbs up. That really helps. And if you enjoy my content and you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, would you consider subscribing? I would really appreciate that. I hope you guys found some helpful tidbits and just enjoyed your few minutes of your day sitting here and having a cup of something with me. Obviously, mine's green tea. But anyway, I hope you guys have a great weekend, and I look forward to seeing you all in my next video. Bye-bye.